Welcome to Building Teams with M-Code. What we're going to talk about today is how you use your motivation code and motivational patterns to build a team. And the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to talk about adding team members to an existing team. And before you add anyone to the team, you have to understand yourself. You have to understand your team. You have to understand your own leadership so that you can prevent predictable conflict with team members, so you can understand whether or not the organism is going to take the transplant, right? So it starts with you and understanding yourself. And on this screen, what you're going to see is the natural strengths and potential blind spots. Let's take a look at this real quick. These are the 8 different dimensions of motivation. Achievers may focus too much on individual performance. Drivers might rush decisions and miss significant team considerations. Influencers could prioritize relationships over task completion. Learners might get lost in details rather than taking action. Optimizers may overlook relational aspects while improving processes. Orchestrators could overstructure and stifle creativity. Relators might avoid tough decisions to maintain harmony. And visionaries could miss practical implementation details. It is critical that you understand how you're wired. And then you understand, hey, what are my blind spots and how do I pay attention to those and mitigate those? I've had people take the M code, read through their blind spot stuff and go, where was this my whole life, right? They wish they had it earlier because they had to learn the hard way. We don't want you to learn the hard way. We want you to learn the easy way. Just read it on a screen and go, okay, yep, that's a good call. When you assemble a team, I don't want you to just think about skills. I want you to think about motivations, their patterns, what we call dimensions of motivation. And this is another way to look at it. If you were playing this game and you were going, okay, so these are 5 of the 8 dimensions, and the first one is the thrives under pressure or struggles under pressure. That's our driver. If I were just playing this game of going, well, are they more thrives under pressure or struggles under pressure? The next one, loves working with others, loves working independently. I might go, oh, here's my relator switch. Are they more this way or more this way? Needs individual praise versus satisfied with group praise. Oh, okay, that's my achiever. How much do I want to move the knob one way or another? Loves improving things versus starting from scratch. That's my optimizer. And needs a leadership role or doesn't need a leadership role. That's my orchestrator, and I can move that around. When I start thinking about what I need on the team, I can use these levers. I can think about the dimensions to figure out, okay, the next hire I need or the next person I need, what do I need? Here is a quick list, right, of the kinds of people you might want. For innovation projects, take a look at visionaries. They're going to be helpful in idea generation. For implementation work, take a look at optimizers and orchestrators. For customer-facing initiatives, take a look at relators and influencers. For problem solving, take a look at learners and drivers. Drivers are going to hit all the quick problems, the easy ones. You'll need learners for the more complex ones, but both of those are powerful. And then for excellence or competition, take a look at achievers. These are broad strokes, but they help you think about what do I need on my team? And it's not just a skill conversation. When you can complement your own leadership style, when you can fill in key gaps, when you can reinforce culture and ensure you have team members who will thrive, you're going to get more and better work done. So let's take a look at how I do it, okay? One example, one person. I start with me. This is the 4-part process. Number 1, I start with me. What are my top dimensions? What are my top motivations? You'll see here my achiever, visionary, and influencer. Maximize, realize a vision, make an impact. That's me. When I know who I am, then I start looking at what are the things I don't bring to the table. I fill in key gaps. When I'm talking about filling in the key gaps, it's relator, it's orchestrator, it's optimizer. These are the 3 areas where I'm like, hey, I'm just not going to bring that skill to the table very often. I'm not going to bring that. I'm not going to be motivated by these efforts very often. So the collaborate, the establish, the systematize, I'm never going to get to systematize. And I don't think that that's bad for me, but I also know that some things need systemization. So you want to have someone on the team who's good at making sure the trains are running on time. The third step when building a team is I create culture. How do I do that? I define the top motivations, the top dimensions that I want shared across the majority of the team. In this recent case, when I was building a team, I said, I need make an impact to be in the top 5 for just about every person. Why? Because I'm not hiring mercenaries. I want to hire people who care more than just their own job or their own promotion. I want to hire people who care about the customers we serve and the impact we're having. So make an impact needs to be there for everyone. Also, I'm going to hire a very small team. I'm going to build a very small team. And to build that small team, I want everyone to be able to run really fast. I want them to excel. So you'll see excel there and maximizes there. I want them to be able to get the best out of themselves and the best out of others all the time. So all of a sudden, I've created a culture around make an impact, excel, and maximize. That's also influencer, achiever, driver. Now, does that mean that I won't have any learners or orchestrators? No, because step 4, I look for the strength I need beyond the culture. And the strength I need is another kind of gap, but it's the bolstering. It's not where I see a dip, it's where I want to build a hill. And when I want to build a hill, I go, I need some extra strength in a particular area. Because of the space we're in, working in an area that needs domain expertise, I want some learners, I want some strength. Even if they're not a full learner, if they have the comprehend and express as one of their top motivations or mastery as one of their top motivations, I'm going to be in a good place. So I'm building a team off of their motivational makeup. And I can see where I fit, I can see where the gaps are, I can see where the culture is defined, and I can see where I want some additional strength. So take a look at this screen. If you're an achiever, take a look at relators to balance the competition with collaboration. If you're a driver, include learners who can provide depth and thorough analysis. If you're an influencer, add optimizers who can create structure for your ideas. If you're a learner, pair with drivers to ensure that action follows research. If you are an optimizer, include visionaries to challenge the established process. If you're an orchestrator, also add visionaries to inspire innovation. If you're a relator, bring in drivers to maintain momentum. And if you're a visionary, include orchestrators because they're the ones that are going to make everything work. They'll turn your visions into actionable plans. Now let's talk about what it means to build that cohesive team. To do that, you need to define common motivational ground. Find the shared motivations that cut across dimensions. We use dimensions a lot to build a team, but then once we're building that culture, we're going to talk about shared motivation. We're also going to create a team charter that acknowledges diverse approaches while emphasizing common goals. Every person on my team is wired differently. That's fine. That's good. I want to highlight that we acknowledge and accept that different approach, that we're not asking everybody to do everything the same way. And then I'm regularly highlighting how different motivational approaches will contribute to the overall mission. There are some times that we like to talk about it as track stars that are running a relay, right? And you got to pass the baton and it's different ones. But I tend to think of it more like a swimming competition because in racing, when you're running, yeah, the distances may vary, but everybody's running basically the same. They're running, right? They're all doing the same thing. And then they hand the baton. It's easy for us to get in that paradigm. And then we start thinking that they all should do it the same way. But if you think about a swimming competition, you have some people on your team that swim backstroke and some people that are doing the breaststroke and some people are doing butterfly. And so you have different people doing different things, but your goal is to win through the heats and through the competition, everybody in their own swim lane, but you want everybody to win so that you can get the team gold medal. That's what we're talking about. So we need to understand that different people will be in different swim lanes and they're going to do their move differently. And of course, to make all of that a lot easier, what I'm going to recommend is that you have everybody share their own motivation code report with each other. Share them. We even tell people, hey, when you're about to go into a conversation one-on-one with one of your teammates, pull up their M code report and read it. Read it so that your brain gets in the space of going, oh yeah, they care more about this. That's how you're going to bridge. You're going to bridge the distance between how you're wired and how they're wired. You're going to bridge that distance by remembering right before your call that, oh, I tend to see the world one way. They tend to see it differently. How can I meet them halfway? How can I bring more of how they work to the table so that we have a better conversation? The other thing I'm going to tell you is you have to develop in the culture a respect for different hows. We are all going after the same what? We all have the same objective. We're trying to climb the hill. But different people will approach their route to that destination differently. And it's not just that you put up with it. It's that you appreciate it, that there is benefit from approaching that destination from different places. And you, as the hiring manager, as the boss, you need to create space for these different approaches. That means not everybody is going to be able to do the same thing in 2 hours. I have employees who can do something incredible in 2 hours, and I have employees who need, 2 weeks to do some other things, right? And you have to be comfortable and create the space for people to work at different timelines, in different time zones, with collaborative or independent approaches, right? And what I want is for each team member to recognize in themselves how they do their work and then be able to articulate it. The better they are to being able to articulate how they work, the better other people can appreciate. Now, the other thing you can do as a boss is pair people together. Put an achiever and a relator. You'll see a couple of these on screen here. A relator and an achiever, you're going to get excellence and team harmony. A driver and a learner, you're going to get action and analysis. An influencer and an optimizer, you're going to get persuasive communication with practical implementation. And an orchestrator and a visionary, you're going to take that innovative thinking and blend it with planning. These are all partnerships where you can show people, hey, your differences are complementary and they can add a lot to what this team is able to accomplish. Now, we have an entire other webinar on dealing with conflict, but I can't talk about managing a team and building a team without touching on predicting conflict. The reality is that there are often conflicts that are not personal in nature. They're tied to different dimensions, clash points that you can predict in advance and go, hey, I know that an achiever and a relator are going to have an issue, right? One is all about the individual recognition. The other is all about team harmony. So I need to create a system that rewards both. You have drivers and learners. One cares about speed, the other thoroughness. So I need to establish clear timelines, but I also need to put in built-in time for people to analyze, research. Optimizers versus visionaries. It's efficiency versus innovation. I get it, but I need to define which phases of the project are going to focus on the innovation and which phases are all about the implementation. Orchestrators and influencers. One's all about structure, the other is about flexibility. My job is to say, hey, here's how we're going to create a framework for how we do things, but also here's how we're going to introduce improvisation. I need to be able to support both. Now, your best bet when you're able to predict conflict is to address it before it even happens. This isn't about my idea versus your idea, and it's not personal. It's about saying, hey, listen, we have visionary approaches and optimizer approaches. Of course, they're going to think about the world differently. Here's what we're going to do, and create the path for them to work together. When we're defining this, we're going to use our visionary approach to this. When we get to this part, we're going to use our optimizer approach. And as we start talking about it and we balance those things, everybody feels heard. They don't need to have their way approved. They have to have their way considered. And when you can articulate that, then people go, oh, you see me, you get me. I understand you're making a different decision for right here. When we frame conflict with an M-code lens, we can focus on the strength of each dimension and what they bring rather than any perceived weakness. We can create temporary, hey, we're going to focus here right now and not over here. And people go, oh, I get it. For this phase, we're going to let this driver drive the bus. But we're going to, right after we're done, have our learner do a recap of what we picked up from this. We're trying to put these things together. And even when we document projects that have just been accomplished, we're going to document it in a way that uses the M code as the lens we look through so that everybody understands, again, and I keep repeating myself, it's not personal. It's how we're wired. So we're not trying to make a specific individual a scapegoat or a bad guy. We're trying to make the whole team win. And to do that, we need to abstract a little from the potential conflicts that specific individuals bring, not because of the individual, but because of the dimension and the way they work. Now, the last thing I want to spend time on is talking about protecting your team culture. It is very easy, if I'm wired a certain way, for me to say, I'm a good fit, I'm an achiever, that's great, I should hire a bunch of other achievers. And if I do that, I'm going to have problems. What we want, number one, is to create a balance. So assess your team and then create recruitment strategies to fill in some of the gaps, give voice to underrepresented dimensions, and maybe even adjust who's leading what kinds of projects. We just worked with a digital agency who reorged their entire organization to have more balanced teams and spread people around so that they had consistent patterns of motivation on each team. Now, watch out for dimensional dominance. What do I mean by that? Well, if you have achiever dominance, you're going to end up with excess competition, burnout, and lack of collaboration. If you have driver dominance, you'll likely see rushed decisions, team exhaustion, and relationship breakdown. If you have influencer dominance, you're likely going to see style over substance, over-promising, and neglecting detail. If you have learner dominance, analysis paralysis, missed deadlines, a theoretical focus, optimizers, too much dominance there, a fixation on process, resistance to change, bureaucracy, orchestrator dominance, over-planning, rigid process, and suppressing innovation. Relator dominance, conflict avoidance, prioritizing harmony over results. And visionary dominance, constant change, incomplete innovation, and impractical ideas. This happens every single time. And the same thing happens when we're talking about blind spots. An all-achiever team will create a hyper-competitive environment. That's a blind spot. That's not something you want. All driver will rush decisions and miss critical details. All influencers focus on relationship at the expense of results. All learners get stuck in analysis paralysis. All optimizers will end up refining processes endlessly. Like, we just finished writing up how that process worked. Well, no, I just figured out some ways to make it even better. An all orchestrator team might create rigid systems that stifle creativity. All relators avoid difficult decisions just for the sake of harmony. And an all visionary team might generate ideas with no practical approach to implementation. What we've just done is walked through the blind spots, the dynamics when you have an overabundance or a dominance of one. We've talked about balance. All of these are here not to tell you what to do, but to warn you about what you ought to watch out for, right? Because we think that, ooh, I'm a driver, I want more drivers, I want people like me. That's not what you want. What you want is balanced teams. And the M Code gives you a lens to help you think about building teams that are balanced and productive, that bring energy to the table for every person on the team. Thanks.